think it's just simplifying your game, and as a fullback, you got to think run first, right? So you got to have a focus on getting the ball on the full as much as you can. So positional play is important. Get the ball on the full. Get back into the defensive line as quick as you can. When you're coming out of trouble, like, just to simplify it, just follow your forwards. Like, just be ready for an offload. Or just push up with your forwards.
Well, thanks for joining us for our round 22 edition of Queenslander, brought to you by Tab as we count down to this year's NRL final series, where hopefully we'll have two teams competing there, the Broncos and the Dolphins, and maybe the Cowboys, if they get on a winning streak, can sneak into the finals too. But as always, I'm joined by the King, Wally Lewis, and Maroon's legend, Darren Lockyer. Boys, this week I gave you a bit of homework to take home. Best player so far this season, from what you've seen from a Queensland-based club, not a Queensland State of Origin player, just from one of the Queensland-based clubs, whether it be the Titans, the Dolphins, the Broncos, or the Cowboys. Who do you think's been the best player?
I'll take a pretty easy jump. Tommy Dearden.
Yep.
Very happy with his performance, certainly at representative level with the Maroons, and I think he's been carrying the Cowboys. It's been very difficult for him on a number of occasions, but he's certainly had an excellent season, and he's just getting better year in, year out.
Yeah, scored 2 more tries in that weekend win over the Dragons. Tommy Dearden. Lockie, who are you going for?
Well, the Broncos are higher on the ladder, but I think the Dolphins have been the most impressive Queensland team this year. And I think a lot of that comes... There's a few players in there that have really contributed, but Isaiah Katoa, I think he's been their best.
Yeah, I think anyone will argue with you. I'm going to stick with the Dolphins too, but I'm going to go the Hammer. Leading try scorer in the NRL at the moment. I think he's just lifted his game an extra 10% this year, and just because he's such box office, he's so good to watch. And if I had to pick a Bronco, I'd say Katoni Staggs. I think consistently he's been their best player.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I mean, Payne was but he's been struggling with injuries of late. Payne
and Gemmett was really good at the start of the year. And Adam Reynolds is always rock solid. But
I'll tell you, I've really gone ahead in the admiration with Payne. I thought he's been fantastic.
Yeah.
Lockyer brought up, Payne's playing with Payne.
Yeah.
He's had some difficult carries this year, and I think he's really been impressive the way that he hasn't sought any sympathy. He simply picks up the ball, carts it forward as well as he can do, and he's one of those guys. I think all the rest of the Broncos look to him with admiration.
Yeah, he picked up an ankle injury in that loss to the Eels, but they tell us he'll be right to go for Friday night, which we'll catch on Widewater Sports. Big grudge match there. How good's that? Wayne Bennett coming back to coach against the Broncos at Suncorp Stadium, and the subplot is Wayne's never lost 9 games in a row as an NRL coach. They lose on Friday night. That's the stat. Can you imagine what he's thinking?
Never underestimate Wayne.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So, I guess if you look at the odds of the bookies, we are red-hot favourites, but that's why I was nervous last week against the Eels. Everyone just expected us to win, and look what happened.
Yeah. How much would Wayne love this situation while underdog Rabbitohs against his old club?
Yeah, he'd be just not saying too much, just letting the media and the critics, rugby league public, come up with their thoughts, and he'd certainly be enjoying every bit of that. And I'm sure that he will be dangling the carrot in front of his players, just trying to inspire them, make sure that they play a little bit stronger than they have in previous weeks. So it's one of those, you never doubt Wayne Bennett. And when I say that you don't doubt him as a coach, his ability to inspire players is a key force of that. Has done so remarkably well over the years.
Yeah, just add some extra spice to that Friday night encounter between the Broncos and the Rabbitohs. But you touched on that Eels game, Lockie. Watching that for me, as a Queenslander, that Eels game, I was thinking, I'm so glad that Mitch Moses didn't play game 2 and 3 in Origin. His long kicking game is as good as anyone.
Yeah. The long kicking game, even if you catch it on the full, it's gone that distance. So field position just gives you a huge advantage.
Yep.
And, like for a guy that hasn't played for, a couple of months, wasn't it?
Yeah, 7 weeks nearly. Yeah.
Geez, he was impressive.
Yeah.
And the Eels have been building to a performance like that. I mean, they nearly beat the Raiders in Canberra.
Yeah, they led them at half time.
Canberra just kicked towards the last 15 minutes, but so they're building well and building nicely
for next year. They look like they could be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and so. But from the Broncos' perspective, once they got behind on the scoreboard, the first half they were high completions, didn't really take too many risks. Then they got behind on the scoreboard, then they just forced the pass. And it's probably something that they need to address, is that when they're in that arm wrestle and maybe behind on the scoreboard, they've got to find a way to just stay patient.
Yeah, one of the players who's copped criticism for that is Reece Walsh. What do you make of his performance? He's always rocks and diamonds. We love him, but did he push the envelope a bit too much? Does he need to rein it in a bit, Wal?
Well, he likes to adventure and try to produce spectacular parts of the game, and it's very easy to be critical of a player that does that. If the Broncos were going a little bit better on the ladder, I'm sure Reece would have been the one that we were patting on the back and saying played a star role. Last week's has got him a little bit of criticism from the rugby league public, but I still say it's arguably the toughest position on the field. In the old days, they used to say it was up front. The halfback had it, or the 5'8", or the hooker had the key positions. But fullback these days, boy, that's a spot. I'm damn glad that I never had the opportunity to play there.
Yeah. Does he need to take a little bit of risk out of his game? How hard is that to navigate as a fellow former fullback, Locky?
I think it's just simplifying your game, and as a fullback, you got to think run first, right? So you got to have a focus on getting the ball in the full as much as you can. So positional play is important. Get the ball in the full. Get back into the defensive line as quick as you can. Dylan Edwards does that really well.
Yep.
And Connor Tracy at the Bulldogs, who's obviously come from Serraldo.
Yeah.
He does the same thing. So you get the ball and you accelerate into the line to get those metres for your forwards. And then when you're coming out of trouble, like, just to simplify it, just follow your forwards. Like, just be ready for an offload, or just push up with your forwards. And then when you get into good ball, do the same thing early in the set, but then come out to the edges on later in the tackle count. And again, think run first, because I think what's happening is Reece he's thinking he's got to throw
coming up with an idea.
He's got to come up with that sort of magic pass, right? Just run first and wait till it presents itself. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more, Lockie. Just thinking about watching some of the ventures that he's had, and it's as though he's got the ball and he's thinking, well, I'm going to do this. Usually in situations like that, you can only come up with the idea on your thoughts, how you're going to attack via the presence in front of you, how the opposition defences come up. Have they got the forwards in the middle that you might be able to run around? Have they got an opportunity out wide? Is there a chance that you can link up with some of your wingers or centres? So it's easy to predict what you're going to do, but if the chance isn't there for you to do so, it's pretty difficult.
Well, when you look at what the try he set up for Billy Walters, right? Like, if he's hanging around the ruck area and he gets an offload, that's what he's capable of doing. So have a bit of a mindset around attacking the middle of the field with your running game first, and then looking to spread it later in the tackle count when you're in good ball. Yeah,
I hate to sound like I'm peeing in Lockie's pocket here, but in the early days when you were playing back at fullback, when Kevy and Alf were there, and it was an opportunity that we used to watch you. You'd react to the chance that was in front of you after you got the ball, not prior to it, where you're thinking, I'm going to do this and do this, and then you can turn around and that chance doesn't exist. And that's what I think was a great learning motion for you. You just reacted to the chance available, and you learnt to read the game.
Yeah, well, Kevy and Alf just played what was in front of them, and when they got the ball, they didn't know exactly what they were going to do. Yeah. They would be out playing on the ball outside, inside, and you just go with them. And I think the try that Kobe Hetherington scored, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason why someone like Reece Walsh can't be on the inside of Adam Reynolds. That's what Elf used to do, with myself. Just go to the line and be inside or outside him.
Yeah, especially with Adam Reynolds there, with the magical passing game he has. He doesn't need to pass the ball as much as Locky suggested. But Billy Slater on his Wide World of Sports podcast, the Maroons coach, he said the Broncos don't really know who they are as a team. What do you think about that?
I get what he's saying, because I think at times there's no... I think if you ask people how do the Broncos play, people would struggle to answer it.
Yeah.
Because it changes a bit from week to week. I do think, we talk about Reece running it, I think you look at the players there like Ezra Mam, Ben Hunt at hooker. I think if they have that mentality of that, particularly those two, Ben Hunt and Ezra, running the ball more, creating some ruck speed and just play off the back of that rather than have set plays all the time. I think you need to sort of try and build momentum and then create space and create opportunity, then play off the back of that. Yeah,
and if those two make the most of the opportunities that are in front of them, Locky, other chances become available for other players to take. And certainly it's easier said than done, but they've got to be able to assess the opportunities in front of them and make the most of them.
Well, if you go back to that first half against the Bulldogs in Suncorp, it was...
Oh, when they blitzed them, yeah.
That's sort of like, I know the Canterbury were off that night, but that's the blueprint. Like, just drop your forwards under, just keep ploughing down the middle of the field, make them tackle, and then wait for the opportunities to come.
Yeah, interesting you say those two need to rediscover their running game a bit more. We interviewed about Ben Hunt. He did media earlier today at Red Hill, and that's one of the things he said. He felt he's on the comeback trail from a hamstring injury. He was a bit tentative the first few games, but he needs to almost have a bit more Harry Grant in his game of like pick opportunities when to run. And we know he's good at that based on what we've seen in Origin and Test footy for Ben Hunt. So, yeah, if they do that, they can be a bit more dangerous. Also, Ben Hunt, it's his 200th game for the Broncos this week. Not 200th NRL game. Of course, he played significant amount of time for the Dragons, but 200th for the Broncos after starting, then leaving. And you actually would have played with Ben Hunt at the Broncos.
Yeah, I think he's the only player there left that I played footy with, 2009.
Yeah,
I retired in 2011.
He was a hooker back then, starting off?
He said, he came... Well, he's always a halfback coming through the juniors. Yeah. And then I think Peter Wallace might have been the halfback at the time. And then, he was just starting. Hook, who was the coach, knew him from Rockhampton, so Hook coached him in the 20s as a halfback, but he got blooded in first grade as a hooker. So and he's ended up there. I mean, he's great at both positions.
Yeah.
But I think, I agree, I think if he can find his running game, he's going to be a lot more effective.
Yeah. And losing that game to the Eels puts them a significant way behind the top four at the moment. What do you think? Do you think in the long run they'll really rue that para loss? Because you kind of need to be into the top four?
Well, you can rue any loss that you have. But certainly that one does appear as though that it's going to be very...
costly,
very costly. Yeah. But I guess only time will tell. Who knows? There may be one of the other teams drop a game that they were expected to win. So it's pretty hard to say it that way. But the old saying that any loss is an expensive loss. Certainly that'll be the case. And I shouldn't imagine that the coach took it too well at all.
Yeah. Yeah, C's reaction at the end of the game when he thought they'd won when Reece Walsh had scored. That's the most animated I've ever seen Michael Maguire.
Never seen him like that.
And then 10 seconds later, it was the opposite with the offside call.
Yeah, that's all the emotions of the coach right there. I mean, I felt like if there had been a trial, it was a get out of jail.
Yeah.
Great escape. Because I thought the better team in the end won the game.
Yeah. What about looking at that ladder, seeing the Panthers slowly creep up? It's making everyone nervous, right?
Oh, I said they couldn't win 4 in a row, and I said at the start of the year they couldn't make the finals.
Yeah.
And now look, the only upside that happened to the Broncos' loss on the weekend was the Warriors got beaten as well.
Yeah.
And so
they didn't really lose too much ground.
No. But Penrith have now gone in front of the Broncos.
Yeah.
So that's scary.
And Adam, if there's one thing I think stands out, it's the trust that the players have in each other. They're disappointed, they might be dirty on each other for some of the mistakes that they'll come up with throughout the course of the game, but they do trust each other. They have been in big games before and they've known what's required to and how hard they've got to perform in those games, and certainly with the record that they've got in finals in the big games, you just can't have any doubt whatsoever. You've got to be full of fear if you're the opposition team that these guys are quite capable of knocking us over. If there is a good part to it, it's that it's certainly to inspire them to produce their best games, whoever plays against the Penny Panthers.
Yeah, God forbid the team that has to play the Panthers in the first week
yeah.
of the NRL final series. They just keep building. Surely they can't win another premiership. Give it to someone else this year. But
Don't be greedy.
Yeah. Moving on to the Cowboys, they announced a couple of days ago that Jake Clifford has signed a contract extension, so he'll be there until at least the end of 2026. So moving forward, it looks as though Jake Clifford and Tom Dearden will be the halves there next season. Or do you think they'll try and revisit that and give Jackson Purdue another go? They had him in there for a bit and then they've gone back to that Clifford one. Well, Clifford's had a quadricep injury at the moment, but it just seemed the timing wasn't right for Purdue to play in the halves.
Yeah, I think that was a bit premature. It was a good experience for him to do that. I do think Clifford, similar to Moses, is that long kicking game.
Yeah.
I think he and Tom Dearden complement each other really well. So, Jackson, maybe that's his position down the track, but a bit like, a Laurie Daly type apprenticeship. Go and play in the centres for a while and then just work your way in there eventually if that's where you want to get to.
Yep. And Jack Clifford's now played 85 NRL games. Well, why do you think he's struggled to nail down a spot? He's been a player who's been thereabouts. He was at the Cowboys, went to the Knights, went over to English Super League, come back. What do you see in his game that he just needs to be a few percentage points better?
Oh, gee, I think if it was that easy, Adam, he would have got rid of it already. Certainly there's some points about his game that... it's very easy to say, on occasions he looks like he has difficulty with his confidence.
Yeah.
With that, there's also the ability to be able to link up with the other person in the halves that he's playing with on that occasion, and to be able to feel that he's quite home and hosed, that he's ready to produce his best. And I quite like him. I quite like watching him, and I'm sure that he would be the first to admit that he is quite capable of performing much better than he has this season. Now is probably a chance to do it, but confidence is a wonderful thing.
I think if he gets his defence right, everything else will look after himself.
Yeah. Kind of the knock on him is his game management isn't quite at the level it needs to be of a halfback. He's really good with his running game, and sometimes, like Walsh says, he lacks that confidence, goes back into his shell. But if you go back and watch, I think it was the Raiders early in the season, he scored an amazing individual try, scored another try off a kick. So with Tom Dearden there, I think it works well because Tom Dearden's a guy who's willing to take on more responsibility, so they can complement each other.
Yeah, I'd give the 7 jersey to Dearden and Clifford at 6.
It doesn't matter too much in modern day footy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the time that they'll be playing left and right.
Yeah.
Then having the opportunity to, whoever's in position to take that spot on who's playing halfback and who's playing 5/8.
Yeah, so with Jake Clifford re-signed, it looks as though Tom Duffy will be pushed out of the Cowboys. He was the halfback at the start of the season. Reports, Lockyer, he's linked to the Broncos. Majors come out and said, we're interested, but a deal hasn't been sorted at the moment. If he comes in as a young half to learn under Adam Reynolds, how good of an apprenticeship would that be for him?
Yeah, well, awesome for him.
Yeah.
He's, Adam's at the back end of his career, got so much experience, a great game manager, and so, just for someone like Tom, he come and all it's going to do is develop him quicker.
Yeah. He went to my old high school up in Townsville too, so I've got a soft spot for Tom Duffy. Ignatius Park College. He won the Michael Morgan medal, so whoever's the player of the year in year 12 gets the Michael Morgan medal. Obviously didn't exist when I played footy up there.
You would have got it, didn't you?
I was no chance, but Michael Morgan obviously graduated after. Scott Prince was the gun footy player when I was at Iggy Park,
And did Sam Thaiday go to Iggy?
No, he went to Kerwin, which is... We're not on speaking terms with them. They're crosstown rivals.
Yeah, and then they had another halfback up there, Jonathan something.
Yeah, he goes good to inspire the locals. But
after venturing up there from heading south, then heading north.
Yeah. But I think Tom Duffy coming to the Broncos would be a good move for him. He's a local product, almost get out of his comfort zone in North Queensland, just a new scenery, new environment. He was the leading point scorer in the Queensland Cup last season, so he's obviously got a fair bit of game. He led the Northern Pride to the minor premiership last year. So, I would like to see him at the Broncos. Him, Kobe Black, the next generation, learn under the likes of Hunt and Reynolds. But moving along to our tab big call. Gents, what do you got this week? My tab big call is going to follow on from what Locky said earlier, that Katoa is his player of the year from a Queensland perspective. I'm going to say that Isaiah Katoa will be Dally M halfback of the year. And what I base that on is Jerome Hughes is out for the rest of the rest of the regular season. He'll be back for the finals, so he'll miss out on votes. Cleary's been in and out. He's missed quite a few games. Metcalf was actually leading the Dally M, but he's done his ACL. Sexton's been dropped by the Bulldogs. Fogarty potentially for the Raiders. I'm happy if Jamal Fogarty proves me wrong and gets Dally M halfback of the year. So Adam Reynolds will obviously get some votes, but that's my tab big call. Katoa wins Dally M halfback of the year.
Yeah, righto. Well, with Hughes out, yeah, he's definitely. And Cleary.
Yeah, Cleary will get a heap of votes, but it'll be close. I think I might be missing someone there, but...
No, okay, all right. Well, mine's a bit more shorter focused. That's this week. We got the Thursday night game, which is the Eels versus Storm.
Yeah.
Round one, the Storm put 56 on the Eels. They remember they had a bad...
Yeah.
But I reckon Jason Roll's team might get one over. The apprentice might get one over the master here. Because no Jerome Hughes.
Yeah.
Moses is back. They're playing at home. So
Pappenhausen's still under a cloud.
So
yeah.
I'm going to go the Eels.
It's a big upset, back to back. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I think Melbourne Storm are going to need a clutch start for the next couple of days, next couple of games.
Yeah.
You take Hughes out of the side and it's almost impossible to imagine that they're going to be as good as they were prior to him being on board. And I'm sure that Bellamy will inspire those that will be filling the positions, but I think it's not going to be easy for them because just looking back and remembering some of the performances Jerome put in, and then being lucky enough to watch all of the Melbourne Storm games, it's quite remarkable how creative he was for a bloke that was very well. He wasn't all that well known in the rugby league world. But boy, hasn't he become a performer, consistent, and whether it's bellyache frightening him into wonderful performances each and every week, I don't know, but he has been so consistent, I can't imagine Melbourne enjoying their next couple of games at all.
Yeah. Did you guys ever dislocate your shoulder, and how long did it take to come back from, and what was that like?
Never did that. I missed all my tackles.
Yeah, Tony Carroll kept dislocating his shoulder, making all your tackles for him.
Yeah.
Did you ever do your shoulder, Walt?
Yeah, I did mine. It wasn't the whole shoulder socket. It was the AC joint, which is a bit of a soft one. And that one used to stick the jersey up a little bit. And I remember Gino used to say to me, "Well, we do all your tackles anyway. You've never done one, you useless coward." I seemed to get back, on the field okay. So I was very, very fortunate. Didn't suffer any serious ones shoulder-wise.
Yeah. So it looks as though Jerome Hughes will have 6 weeks off, avoid surgery, and come back for the final series. We saw Hamole Olakawatu have a similar thing for Manly, but he redid it on the weekend against the Bulldogs, so unfortunately he's out for the rest of the year. Moving on to Titans, and finally, Gold Coast fans, we've got something positive to talk about for your side. The big upset win over the Warriors in Auckland to mark Desi Hasler's 500th game, and also Kieran Foran's last ever game in his home country over there in New Zealand. Lockie, what did you see in that performance from the Titans that's been missing for pretty much all season?
Well, they played with the effort that they have been playing with. They just executed better.
Yeah.
They had to, Warriors flew out of the blocks, 2 early tries.
Yeah, 10-0.
Yeah, sometimes early tries for a team can be a false sense of security. That it was for the Warriors. And, they just played with effort. They played with energy, but they finally executed. And Jaden Campbell.
Well, he looked like Preston. He was playing that good.
Yeah. Jaden Campbell is the X factor there, and particularly down that right edge. They were impressive, and congrats, for Des's 500th.
Yeah.
I guess when you look, they probably should have won at Leichhardt the week before. It's not easy to beat West Tigers at Leichhardt, right?
On a Sunday,
you felt like they were building to a performance, and they got one.
Yeah, patience has been the thing that that they've been a little bit short of. I think there's been a number of occasions where they've had the opportunity to almost knock over a team that they weren't expected to beat, and it just appeared as though that they were trying to take the win too early in the game. But again, congratulations to Des. There's been a whole pile of criticism of his performances, of his treatment to the players. He's been at some great places, and when you have a look at his record previously, who he's coached, how they went, their performances, did they get the premiership? I think that he certainly deserves a lot of credit. He's been in charge of many players in different positions, and I think Des has always sort of said he's never felt all that comfortable in being involved with the forwards, but I think he's shown extreme character for that now, and he's done quite well.
And with that in mind too, do the Titans players themselves cop enough heat? Because everyone's been critical of Des Hasler during this period. Do the players need to maybe take a bit more ownership of their performances?
I think collectively the players and the coach take it on board. It's the coach that, from the lens is looking in, it's the coach that cops the brunt.
Yeah.
The players obviously feel it, but at the end of the day, I think the coach is the person that has to get the group playing for each other, playing for the club, and getting the performances. So, it's one of those things that they're all got part blame.
Yeah.
The players and the coaches.
Yeah. I was going to say, Locky, I mean, it really is quite strange, isn't it? The different coaches, the different ideas that they have, the different ways that they react to it. And when you're first involved with those coaches, you sort of sit back and you think, well, it's going to take me a little while to adjust and get used to their style of it. And all too often, it's the coaches get the criticism when, a lot of time they may suggest that it's the players who haven't reacted to their style of play, the style that's been requested, that could have been the missing secret. So it's quite easy to say it, but that's some record, 500 games. Boy, he's done an extremely good job. And when you know Des and you hear some of the criticism of him, and he doesn't get up the players too much, he's one of the quietest blokes you'll ever meet in your lifetime. Yeah. Can that be a good coach? Well, depends what that coach says to the players. But he's got a pretty good record up, and I'm not the person that knows him best of all, but having seen his performances over the years, I'm sure that Des would absolutely hate to be retiring on the record that he has at the moment. He'd be quite determined to go ahead and leave a winning man.
Maybe we need to get Fatty on the show. He'd have quite a few Desi stories, don't you reckon, from back in those Manly days? Maybe a special guest appearance from the Fat.
I'm sure Des would be paying us to make sure Fat doesn't come on the show. That would be much more comfortable.
Yeah, and with that victory, the Titans actually jump off the bottom of the ladder now. The Rabbitohs are last. Locky, they play the Rabbitohs next week. Do you think the Titans can avoid the wooden spoon now, or will avoid the wooden spoon?
Yeah, I know they've got to. I know the Rabbits is one of the teams.
Yeah, they play the Panthers this week, so you can't see them winning that.
No.
And I think they've got. Would they have the Warriors?
Warriors.
Again?
Yeah, and then they play the Cowboys. I think, the second last round, or the Dolphins in the second last round. Sorry, but essentially, I reckon that Rabbitohs Titans is almost the spoon bowl.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I think the winner out of that game. The loser out of that game get the wooden spoon.
Take the wooden spoon home. Yeah.
The loser gets a win there. And just finally on the Titans, a lot of talk about there are too many fullbacks. That's always a big talking point there. For round one next season, if I had to say right now, who's your number one? Is it AJ Brimson, is it Jaden Campbell, or Keanu Kinney?
Well, Kieran Foran retires.
Yeah.
It's always been trying to fit 5 into 4.
Yeah.
I still think Brimson could be a really dynamic
I agree.
hooker.
Yep.
But I'd put Kinney back at fullback.
Yeah.
I would put Campbell in the 7.
Yeah.
Or what's the guy's name that fills in for
Tom Weaver?
Tom Weaver.
Yeah.
And put Brimson into 9 potentially. Yeah. Or Brimson can do like a Billy Walters, but I think he's too good. He's too good to not be in the team. So I'd go Kinney at fullback, Campbell at 6, and I'd put Brimson in 9, and I'd put Weaver at 7.
Yeah, okay. That's actually an interesting combo, yeah. Hopefully Keanu Kinney comes back from that neck injury quite well.
And confidence will probably have a little bit to do with it, Adam. He may, have some concerns about it and want to look after it a little bit, but I think he'll be okay. But, yeah, Kinney, I think he's got, he's just got that blistering speed off the mark, and I'd expect him to be in that position.
Yeah, it's a hard one. AJ Brimson has been excellent since he's gone back to wear the number 1 jersey, but I'm like you, Lockyer, I'm convinced that Jaden Campbell is a half now. I had my reservations at the start, but what we've seen in recent weeks, stick Jaden Campbell in the halves.
Well, if he stays at 7, and then the 6 might be Weaver, I don't know, there might be someone else in that squad, but...
They've got a young kid called Zane Harrison who won the Schoolboys Premiership last year with Palm Beach Grumman. Yeah, Salty and I commentated that game. He's still a couple of years away, but they've seen him as a potential half. But Gold Coast, stop recruiting fullbacks because you've got enough. Spend your money in other areas of the salary cap. Let's move along to the Dolphins before we wrap up this episode. Clinging to that 8th place at the moment on for and against. Their for and against is exceptional, but now their run over the next few weeks is the Warriors away this week, the Roosters at home, the Broncos essentially at home because it's home ground for everyone, for those 2 teams, and Sea Eagles away. Looking at that run over the next month, can they hang on to the top 8, or what do they need to do? They have to win at least 2 of them?
Yeah, but I think the Dolphins will make the 8.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
Like, when they're on, they're as good as a top 4 team.
Yeah.
And Lockyer, would you say as long as it's that they've got the big boys up front, they're the ones that have dictated terms, dominated the big games, and been almost frightening for the opposition forwards in a bash of the big boys up front.
Well, they're still winning games with big margins without their starting forward.
Yeah.
Kafusi back this week, Mark Nichols.
Yeah.
The GOAT, he's back.
Yeah.
So, I think they play a style of football that they're definitely a threat to all of those teams they play.
Yeah, I was a bit concerned when Kafusi was out. I thought, this won't be good times ahead, but they really have improved, done wonderfully well, and they've certainly proven to the opposition every week that they're capable of doing so.
Well, Kafusi, he's like a hitman. He comes out and just whacks a few early, sets the tone, and then gets a rest.
Show you how to do it, boys.
Yeah.
Look at this.
We understand that Felice Kafusi will be back this week too. He's trained strongly from that knee injury. He signed a 1-year contract extension, so he'll definitely be there next year. Do you look back upon reflection and think that was maybe one of the smartest recruitments they made for the inaugural club?
Well, I remember when Wayne, his first 3 or 4 signings, they were all, at the back end of their career, and people were critical about Dad's army, but you need the experience to teach the kids.
Yeah.
So that was a deliberate ploy to bring in those experienced forwards to come in and teach some of the young kids coming through the system. And you look at the kids that are coming through, it's impressive.
Yeah, you're right, Lockyer. They inspire those around them. And they've done so. And when you got a guy that hits as anybody, well as anybody in the game, it certainly makes those teammates feel like we're in a side here. Have a look at this. I'm feeling quite comfortable with the support that I've got, and he's one of those guys that can be wonderful for that support role. And
potentially next week, Cody Nikorima could be back. And Kulikefu Finifuiaki, who's had that thumb problem, he's got it strapped up at the moment. So a couple of big ins for them. Is Wolfie getting enough credit that he deserves for being able to keep this group together in his first season at NRL level? Because obviously this is a huge challenge, replacing Wayne Bennett, but add to that the injury crisis.
Yeah, I don't think Wolfie wants any credit.
Yeah.
He's that type of bloke. He's pretty humble. What I like about him is his demeanour or persona doesn't change. When they were losing at the start of the year, when they lost 4 in a row, he didn't panic. He just kept his cool. And when they're winning, well, he's talking the same way. So I think he's a very, very calming influence. But I can just the way they play, I can see there's a bit of an aggressiveness about the way they play, and I think that comes from Christian as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Locky. I think he's not a coach that looks for raps from all corners of the globe. He just wants to make these guys better footballers, come up with a plan that they stick to and are able to put into place quite comfortably. And if things go wrong, put into place some of the learnings that he's had from the great coaches of the game, which he has studied under.
Yeah, Wolfie was actually a high school teacher at that high school where Tom Duffy was. So everyone who went to that school, except for me, pretty much excelled in the rugby league world. So sorry, Iggy Park guys, I've
not too late,
let you down. Yeah.
What position did you play?
I was like a halfback 5'8",
Yeah,
one of those rare non-running, non-tackling halves. So no wonder I wasn't any good. But just on the Dolphins, so that run the next month. So Roosters and Manly, I think it's imperative they win those games because it essentially turns into those 4-point games you have the back end of the season because they're another team jostling for a top 8 spot and you can deprive them of 2 points.
Yep. Oh, look, I think the good teams in the finals are actually winning the games they're expected to win.
Yeah.
That's the key. And so, yeah, I think the Dolphins, given the players that are out for the Warriors, and I think, the Seagulls, well...
Yeah.
They,
losing Olakawatu, their confidence is down after that Bulldogs game. Yeah, I don't hold high hopes for Manly.
Yeah, that's stung. And Manly, probably their supporters will be quite confident, quite hopeful, but I think they've been stung bad. They've had some very difficult paths to follow, and it's just proved a little bit too difficult for them.
Yeah, and they have a tough draw to finish the remaining month of the season. I think that's all we've got covered. So the Dolphins, big game for them over in New Zealand against the Warriors, but tune in Friday night footy back at Suncorp Stadium. If you're not lucky enough to have a ticket, tune into Channel 9, the grudge match. Wayne Bennett, will he move a step closer to the wooden spoon? He's never had the wooden spoon before in his NRL coaching career. A loss to the Broncos could make that very much possible. And
I'm nervous.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Wayne Bennett's pre-match press conference interview. I'm not sure if you have to do it or JT has to do it this week, Locky, but that'll be worth watching in the pre-game show on Channel 9.
Yeah, I'm sure Locky and I say the same thing with this one, though. This is one of those games that, it brings nerves.
Yeah.
It really does. To suggest that it could be bad news for the other side, no, you don't throw petrol on the fire there.
The other big question is, will he shake JT's hand?
Yeah, that's it, yeah. Always reluctant to do that, Supercoach Wayne Bennett. So, yeah, make sure live and free coverage on Channel 9, the Broncos up against the Rabbitohs. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week here on Queenslander.